I'm sure we speak for everyone here, and we all wish you all the very best in your new role. Before you were appointed, the club have failed to have any sort of identity on the pitch over the last X, Y, Z seasons. You came in, you spoke about an identity straight away, obviously really impressed with what you were saying and what you've done, and I'm sure, like everyone else, I've researched everything about you since you were linked to the job. Since coming in and meeting the players, have you changed your idea of what our identity might be? And if so, what do you see it being now you've been here 3 or 4 weeks?
I think firstly, thanks for the welcome. I have to say it's been terrific since I've been here, 3 weeks tomorrow. So the people I've met, the fans, everyone I've come across at the club have been terrific, really, really warm, which helps settle in quickly. In terms of identity, I think it starts, and you'll hear me talk a lot about it in terms of behaviours and basics. And again, I think that for fans that are paying hard-earned money, the bare minimum you guys should expect to see is a group of lads turn up and give everything they've got. Running, competing, working, putting their body on the line, that type of stuff. And then on top of that, it then comes down to the coaching side of it in terms of the organisation. So hopefully, despite the start of the second half of the weekend, hopefully you saw a team that were quite well organised, difficult to beat, against again a really strong Middlesbrough side. And at the same point, there's bits to work on in possession, but it still carried a threat throughout. So there's some of the bits. I think the top line stuff want to be hard to beat, want to play exciting attacking football ultimately. That's where we want to get to. And definitely looking at the group that we've got, I've been really impressed by how quickly they've picked things up. So the work that we've challenged them to do, whether it be in the video room or on the training pitch, so far in the 2 games we've had, seen bits come out, and that's a process that takes time. So definitely when you've got a group of lads that are all in like you can see they are, I think that capacity to learn will only accelerate that identity where we want to get it to. So it'll take time, it won't always look perfect, but no football match ever does. So as long as the lads step on the pitch with an idea and a clarity in what we're trying to do, then for me, we'll continue to work to improve and get better.
First of all, welcome, Liam.
Thank you.
My question is for Mr. Lansdown, if you don't mind. You say that you want us to play in the Premier League, which obviously we all do. But when you sell players that we see as good players, we do start wondering, why do we sell all our best ones? And I'm thinking of Alex, particularly.
Yeah, I mean, look, we do want to get to the Premier League, of course we do. But I mean, when you've got, certainly if you look at Alex, you've got a player that he's done a lot in a very short space of time, and he could be anything. There's a lot of potential there. It's one of those things that the closer you get, you can be selfish and you can try and keep them as long as you can, but you've also got to understand that for him, it's a huge opportunity and the right time to go. For us, it gives us a real platform to now have a number of transfer windows where we can try and get our business done early. It puts us in a position that other clubs aren't, in terms of we know we have some income coming in, and that doesn't mean we have a huge budget or we can blow that because we've got a wage budget as well, but it does mean, like we did this summer, we can get our business done early and we can identify who we want and who can improve us. So look, of course we want to keep our best players around, we want to get to the Premier League, but it's natural that some of those players will outgrow us before they take us with them.
Thank you.
Hi Liam, welcome to... Oh, excuse me. What? Sorry, a bit nervous, sorry. No, it's all right. First of all, welcome to Bristol. Obviously the January transfer window is approaching now. Obviously discussions will be going on in the eyes of what players we feel we need to bring in. Is there a number on that, or is it still ongoing?
No, I think first and foremost the big part, and although it feels like I've been here quite a while already, we've only had 2 games. I think that the biggest part is to identify, analyse the squad, and again you have to do that from games for me. So you can see them in training for 3-4 weeks, but it's not until you step on the pitch and you see whether they can transfer that work that we've done on the pitch into the games, and then identify what that looks like in the short, medium and long term. And again, I've been really impressed with I have to say, the recruitment department. obviously working closely with Brian as well. You know, the work's constant. It's not just you get near January and you start. The work's already been going on, you know, for a considerable amount of time. My role is to come in and obviously assess what we've got in-house and then have chats with Brian, have chats with Sean and John and go, right, what do we need? But again, I think it's making sure that you get the right people for the club. So we're in that process now. We're having regular weekly meetings or fortnightly meetings around what the squad looks like and what January needs to look like so that we can, you know, get ahead of it. And I think that's really important. John just said about it there, but being proactive is massive. So again, the quicker, you know, we look at and make decisions on what we've got in-house and where we need to strengthen, you know, the quicker we can, you know, work on identifying the correct targets.
Thank you. Welcome, Liam, to our club. There's a question for you, Lansdown. Is it true we're going to have VAR anytime in the Championship? If so, I'm not a fan of it. No, I'm not a fan of it myself.
Yeah, I can take that question if you like. Yeah, we don't know any more than you do. There aren't discussions at the moment. Obviously, there's speculation that VAR will come in to the Championship and also to the WSL, but the leagues haven't confirmed one way or another.
This is an open question to the four of you. Now, for those of us who are in this room, and a good majority of those who are actually sat on the panel right now, this club's identity has been fully about emotional, curiosity within the actual football club for a long, long time. Now, at times you go down the gate and it can feel a bit stale. At other times you could feel like it's a magical wonderland. That's how it has always been in football. Now, Liam, I understand your whole coaching history and background, from what I've read, is more about articulating factual numbers, statistics, being able to speak to the players and giving an overall background of this is how we play football. Have any of the board and those who were sat with you and yourself fully delved into how to emotionally connect within the football club as of now, and how you can use that to your advantage to guide us further on the pitch and amongst those in the stands to make it a more passionate place than it has been recently?
Can you repeat that?
In a more simple term than that, have you researched the history of the football club to understand how to push it further?
No. So I can't see who's asking the question either, so it's quite hard to answer. Oh, sorry.
Just overcompensated.
Yeah, look.
The history of the football club itself to help us move on further to understand and emotionally use that to connect with the club itself.
Look, I mean, that's partly. I've been connected to the club for a long time in terms of it. So I mean, that's partly my role to be able to help Liam understand some of the nuances and things like that. You know, I think certainly something we can talk about is making sure what we show you of the club and our communication is better, so we can try and connect. I mean, there's loads of things you can do. Winning football matches obviously helps too. So, but there's lots we can do, and we do. But I mean, for me, it's showing more and connecting more with the fans so that you can feel part of the club. And that's definitely it's something that we could have been criticised certainly for in the last few years, definitely. And for me, you know, we do a lot of great work, not just talking about the team, but the community and everything else. There's some great work that I'm sure people aren't aware of, and I think it just helps to connect people to it.
That's fair enough. I just want to be able to know on a Saturday that I want to go down there and feel that I'm not just turning up to see objectiveness, which I have felt for a long, long time personally, and I don't know many others in this room who say they have felt that the same going home and away every week, that you sit there and it almost becomes like a chore. And I don't like that feeling of football being just for the sake of football. I want to know what I care about, what I love more than anything else is carried on throughout the whole setup of the system, not just as a fan base. If that makes sense.
Yeah, from my perspective, I think the biggest thing comes back to what I said around the behaviours of the players and the staff. And I think like I said, hopefully you've seen that in the first 2 games since we've been in, is around people willing to run, to compete, to give everything. And they're never going to get it all right. Do you know what I mean? I think that's the biggest bit, and I think, you know, like I said, I think fans are really forgiving and understanding that we're going to win games, we're going to lose games, we're going to draw games, but as long as people can turn up and know that players have given everything, and, you know, and the staff have given everything to try and create a plan and create an identity of what we're trying to do. Like I said, it won't always look right, but as long as you can see what we're trying to do, I think that's where you get the connection. And again, I felt it a little bit at the end of the game on Saturday. You know, that connection after you win of, you know, getting around and spending time, and I think that's important. The COVID highlighted that for me massively. That the game is for the people, it's for the fans. So again, I think that connection between, you know, the team, how we play, and again, I think you guys are massive. You know, there'll be periods where we might be having a tough time, and I felt the fans for the last 10 minutes on Saturday got us over the line, to be fair. And the noise that can be generated can create massive momentum swings in football matches. And that for me is something that I'll be pushing a lot, because I know how big a, you know, impact it can have in game. So, like I said, for me, I'll be doing every single minute, every single hour I can to make sure that the lads are successful ultimately.
Just so we can get as many questions in as possible, if you can start putting your hands up, then we're going to get to the lady at the front first.
Thank you. Hello, John. I'm Christine. A few people here have probably had enough of me already, so I'll try and keep it brief. Thank you for your information there, Liam. And yeah, it's great to have the open training sessions and get to meet the players and the coaching staff, etc. But John, you keep coming back to saying you want to be more in line with the supporters. You want to get to know the supporters and the fans a lot better, more and more, or perhaps on a more of a personal nature, in the way that a lot of us know Brian and can go up to him and say, "Hi Brian, how are you?" or with any of the other staff. How do you propose to do that at the football? You do it at the rugby. We know you have the sessions within the rugby matches themselves. Football's harder because perhaps there's more people wandering around around the concourses and things. But you keep coming back to you want to engage more with the football fans. So how do you propose to do that other than these sort of sessions, which is one a season and limited to 100, perhaps 120 people who can actually get over to Bedminster to do that?
I mean, you make a good point. It's not easy to connect with lots of fans at once on a one-to-one basis. So, I mean, things like this are helpful. It's things like this in combination with trying to connect through, you know, showing you more inside the club, because you can't all do it on a one-to-one level. So, for me, it's when I talk about the communication, that's kind of what I mean, to try and give a better insight to the club, a better feeling and a better connection to it. Of course, when, you know, it's great to meet fans and the one-on-one things, and we do have things at away games as well. And I'm not quite sure the rugby part that you're asking, but in terms of events like this, it's something that definitely encourage and do more of.
It's a double-barreled question, actually. I hope you can understand my Scottish accent, Liam. We've got a few Scottish players. It's a question to both you and Jon Lansdown. Is there going to be any money available in January? And to Liam, have you already sort of got in your mind sort of an area where you might be looking to strengthen the squad?
It's good.
Give me some time. Give me a minute.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of January, it's not. I think we all know it's not the best time often to do business. But what we will try and do is if we can bring something forward from the summer that we'd like to do anyway, and do it in January, we would. We've got a wage bill to fit that within, but we're constantly looking to improve in that sense. So we'll be looking at it in terms of if we can improve the squad, we will. So there's lots of conversations going on at the moment, but it depends on whether there's the availability. But if there is, and it's a player we want, and it works, then we'll definitely look to do it.
Can I just say yes? Is that enough or not? No, look, I think those conversations are constant. And again, big bits. I think, like I said, it comes down to a part of really getting to know what we've got in the building. I think is my priority at the moment. The first thing, which, like I said, the fact we're now going to have a really heavy period of games helps. So I can really get to understand and know what we've got. And then we're in talks with Brian and constantly in terms of what do we need to add. And again, I think in terms of initial bits, I think some goals might help as well. So attacking positions is something that we've had discussions about, but so it's a really difficult market, front players and wide players, especially in January. So again, I think you have to do the right business. I think that's the most important bit.
Hi. So I just wanted to ask, in a couple of weeks we'll have the FA Cup third round draw, and many of us in this room will remember Mr Tinnion sat there at Anfield and the heroics that he performed. Liam, I'm just interested, as a manager, do you prioritise cups or do you prioritise the league? What's the most important for you? Please don't say every game is important.
Winning, to be fair. I think that's what I prioritise. So, it's still a time away. I think there's so many factors that go into it between now and then in terms of programme we've had, results, form, fitness. I think there's so many factors that go into it. But every single game I go into, I pick a team to win, ultimately. I think what we've got is depth in terms of, you saw at the weekend, it was quite nice. I think the last 2 games, the subs coming on have had real positive impact. Obviously, I made a couple of changes at the weekend from what we played at QPR. So, again, I think for me, we can, we're in a position where we can make a few tweaks and changes at the minute, and it, keeps the level of the team. So, yeah, there's so many factors that will go into it, but for me, we'll be going in to win.
Liam, first thing, welcome to Bristol City. A question is for you, John. Just on the stadium atmosphere, I've noticed that when we do get beyond the team, we are a hell of a force. But I've noticed, are there any plans to increase the singing section to majority of the south stands? Because I've noticed when the away fans are chanting, it cancels the entire noise out, and it affects the players. So, is there any chance we could extend it to, say, possibly the Dolman at all?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that's something when you travel away as a support anyway, you're obviously all you're bunched together, and you find that there's often a good atmosphere. Look, we get good atmospheres at home as well, but you're right, it's got to find a way to go around the ground and get everybody involved. And look, when you're doing well, that's an easier thing to build on. I think in terms of, can you extend that singing section? I think that's something that, if there is a real appetite for it, it's something that kind of needs to be brought forward by everyone in that sense, because it's not for me to dictate that a stand that's majority season ticket holders, there's not many match-to-match tickets in there that people can't go in there. So if there is a real appetite for it, there needs to be a kind of a coming together, whether that's supporters club and trust, various bodies saying, look, we really want this as a club, right, then if there's a general agreement, we've got to find, right, what's the way to do it, because you're going to have to move people to do that. And I've seen some questions on there, I haven't been asked it yet, but in terms of, you do see a fair few empty seats in the South Stand at times. So that's obviously when you get some season ticket holders not coming to particular games. So there may be ways and means to do it, but it's not straightforward. So for something that's not straightforward, and obviously it's something that people hold dear in terms of, that's my seat, that's where I sit, everything else, and you're going to have to handle it carefully and have to have a real sort of collective and a momentum to do something like that.
Thank you. Sorry, John, but that singing section is stuck away in the corner. They're more like away fans. You know what I mean? Because before the South Stand was finished, all the singing fans was behind the goal net, and that's where they should be, I believe. Now it creates atmosphere either side of the goal net. The sound spreads.
Yeah, and look, I understand what you're saying, but obviously where we are at this point, you've got the stand there, which is, it's over 90% season ticket holders. So anywhere you want to move someone's already sat there. So
yeah, but why can you put them behind the goal net when it first opened? Because that's where they live, the East End, the old East End.
Mm-hmm. It's a difficult question to answer in that sense, because I can't remember how that started in the first place. You've obviously got to.
Well, that was the history of the club.
Mm-hmm. No, I understand that part, but obviously when we've moved to the new stadium, you've had new stands. You've had a lot of families obviously in that south stand as well, and the family section's moved. But it's always going to be difficult when you migrate to a new stand. Since we've done that, we had our fans in the attic, obviously at parts. We've had them in the section 82 in the corner as it is now. But I agree with you, the atmosphere, if you spread that across the stand, would be better. So it's hard to look back and say how we ended at for me. But in terms of like where do you go from here, then if it is something that there's a big appetite from amongst the fan base, then it's something that I think would have to be a collective work towards.
Very collective at the moment.
Yeah.
And it has been on the social media for a long time. People, supporters wanting to be back beyond the corner. They call it Section 82. So.
No, I understand that, but it's more than just that section that's involved in that. So I think it does need, whether it's the Supporters Club and Trust, whether it's other people, it is going to need a collective to do it, because I'm not being flippant, but if someone else said, right, we want to take over the corner, I mean, it'd be fine because you go into the middle behind the goal. But it's the same thing. There's someone sat where we want to move to, so you'd have to handle it carefully.
Just going to bring Brian into the conversation. Brian, I saw a great stat on the weekend. Great stat on the weekend that in the top 2 we've got the most homegrown players, which is fantastic. What's coming? Yeah, give a round of applause for that. What's next? What's on the production line? Give us some more insight.
It's funny, I just had a call from a Premier League club trying to nick one today, so we're doing our best to keep. Liam knows him already. He's going to train with him very shortly, so he's an under-16. We've got some fantastic young players coming through. Every age group. I watched our 13s beat Wolves the other day in the Premier League Cup. Our 17s went to Spurs and beat them 5-2. You know, top Cat 1 team, so I won't name one because there's about 10, I think, who could potentially play in our team very soon. So just got to keep Liam happy, give him some good signings, and then. But he's good because he wants to look in the academy first before we recruit. We have to see what's in the building. He's explained that already. But when we haven't got them ready, we'll go and get the best ones we possibly can to help the club go forward. But the academy's in a fantastic place, and as you said, it was great to see the other day that we're the top in the Premier League and the Championship. So great.
Thanks, Brian.
Everybody, all the academy staff, well done.
Good evening, gentlemen. My name is Shahan. My question is mainly for Jon and Gavin. However, Liam and Brian, feel free to contribute if you wish. A few weeks ago at the state opening of Parliament, the government's plans were announced for an independent regulator for football to come into effect following the fan-led review of football governance. This is made to help protect football clubs, and we don't see a repeat of the situations like we see at Reading and Scunthorpe and Southend, and to make sure there's nothing like the European Super League happening. I just want to ask mainly Jon and Gavin, what are the board's thoughts of the independent regulator, and does the club support it?
Yeah, I mean, I speak largely personally for this, but you know, I'm a big supporter of that. I was delighted when I saw that case. I think it's the right thing for football to get a football regulator. There's my personal view, not necessarily the official club view, but I think also, you know, it's the best thing for Bristol City. I think we've seen that, you know, it's a monopoly in the Premier League with the parachute payments. It's not impossible, as plenty of clubs have proven over the years, and Luton only last season, but it's very difficult to make that jump to the Premier League without the parachute payments, and it does create, as I say, a bit of a monopoly, and the Premier League won't vote for that because it's in their interests, you know, and we see it with some of the clubs. Southampton and Leicester, Leeds have come down where they've got enormous budgets and very impressive squads, and makes it very hard for other teams to compete with in the Championship. So I think, you know, it's the right thing for football, my personal view, but I think it's also the right thing for Bristol City because it's the only way that they'll break up the monopoly, break up the parachute payments, and narrow that gap between the central funding between the Premier League and Championship.
Yeah, from my personal point of view, I'm certainly not one for regulation's sake, but I mean, I think football has proved time and time again that it is unfortunately necessary. The footballs exist for their communities, exist for your fans, right? And to have that put at risk isn't really an acceptable position. So, look, we've seen it happen on a number of occasions, and you know, the money that is involved, certainly in this level of football, if you've got somebody coming in, I'm sure you get owners who don't really realise what they're getting into, and you know, after a few years of it, you see people losing interest. Now that's fine when there's someone else lined up to say, I'll have a go at that next for a few years, but when that dries up, who loses out? It's the fans and it's the community and everything that club supports. So look, from that point of view, it has to happen. And I mean, the other effects of it, if it does help close that gap and makes it more competitive, then great.
Just to return to the previous discussion about singing sessions and looking at it from the issue from the other angle, it sometimes seems to us that the away supporters get the freedom of Bristol when they come to Ashton Gate. We give them a whole section all to themselves. And if you compare that, for instance, with us going to, say, Leeds, where you're behind their supporters, very difficult to make yourself heard in a corner, lots of people in front of you. I just wonder if there's any possibility that we might be a little less accommodating to away supporters, perhaps put them up in the Lansdown or out in the car park, or just somewhere where they can't influence the game to the same extent. We all know away supporters make a lot of noise and go there to support. Home supporters tend to be a bit moany, so you need to have. You always got that uphill battle. It's just it seems that it's made a bit easier for them. So that's for John, I think.
It's more of a practical point, isn't it?
I mean, it's difficult. It's difficult. You know, some of the bigger stadiums like Leeds, like Villa, when they were in the Championship, you know, Newcastle. They've got more options to tuck the away fans away. They've got bigger stadiums. You know, I think for us, you know, rightly or wrongly, we've got the family area up there. So, you know, obviously it wouldn't be appropriate to put the away fans there when we've got the family area up there. So, you know, in terms of the Atio, you know, I can tell you that, you know, in terms of what the away fans get, the Atio stand is not to the standard of the other three stands at Ashton Gate. So it is the obvious place to put them. So, but you know, I think John, as John referenced, you know, we do hear this feedback. You know, when we initially did try and move the families up to the family area and put them, you know, there was a lot of resistance, and totally understand why. People were, you know, families were in the south stand, and a lot of them were reluctant to move up, and there was a lot of criticism then. So I think, as John said, I think in terms of a consultation with supporters and supporter groups, but it is a bit of a hornet's nest. You know, you fix one problem, but you create another problem. So, you know, but I think it'd be something that we'd be happy to look at and work with the supporters if there's a better way of redesigning the stadium. As John said, people are very attached to where they sit, so it's very difficult to ask people to move.
Hello. This question's mainly for Brian. Obviously, the academy's flourishing, and someone mentioned the stat earlier about how in the Prem and the Championship we've got the most sort of homegrown minutes. We're currently obviously a Category 2 academy. Is there any way that we could move to Cat 1 viably while in the Championship? Because obviously the cost is much greater, or would that only really be possible and sustainable if we were to make it to the Premier League?
I think we've looked at this, and we've looked at the costings, and we've looked at the possibility of doing it. But I think the key thing for us is that the success we're having in the Category 2 gives us a bit of flexibility, so we can put players out on loan. We don't have to keep all the players in to play against the top academies all the time. We're getting that with the Premier League Cup now with 13s, 14s, 15s, 16s, 17s and 18s in the FA Youth Cup. So we're getting tested at all age groups now. So I think it's become a little bit less where we need to go Cat 1. It would be difficult to compete, and it would stop us giving them young players the experience of loaning them early at 16, 17, 18 to get the men's football. So it's definitely something we've explored, but at this moment in time we think we're a pretty good Cat 2, and we're producing players at the moment.
Yeah, look, just to add to that, from my point of view, we're not far off facility-wise. Certainly what we give young players is you know, very good. Yeah, it's very comparable, and the important bit, the big bit we provide is the opportunity as well. So it's not a box-ticking exercise for us. Look, if there's a real advantage to go Cat 1, then we can, and we could do it quite quickly. But for us, it's what's best for us and what's best for producing players.
It's a question for
Brian probably, but was Liam earmarked to be the next head coach after we played Oxford earlier in the season, based on how Oxford played against us in the pre-season games?
It's funny, I spoke to Liam's agent, and he goes, when we started showing a bit of interest, and he goes, after the second game in the Cup when we beat them 5, he said, that's done it for Bristol, I'll never manage there. So he's no, it was a really tough game for them, and they started the game really well in the Cup. Actually, for the first half hour, they played us off the pitch, and I was watching it saying, Jesus. But looking deeper, looking at his background, looking at his coaching, looking what he's done, and the desire he's got, I think, to be a top coach was something that stood out to us straight away. We had conversations, and myself, Jon and Gav, when he left the room, was like, wow. So that's how we felt, and we've still got that feeling, and we want that feeling to keep going, and Saturday was a great start for him, and I think there's going to be some really exciting times ahead.
So just following on from that, really, from what Brian said, Liam, you're obviously a young, ambitious coach. Just can you tell us a bit about those ambitions? Can you tell us a bit about what you would like to achieve in the game as a coach? How far do you want to go in this? In what do you want to achieve ultimately?
I've actually never chased anything in my career. I've never actually gone and chased like the next job or the next role. Or for me, I've always kind of gone by the philosophy of do the very best I can in the job I'm doing, and if I do well, what will be will be. So of course I want to work with the best players I can. I want to be the best coach I can. So I'm also fully aware where I'm at in my journey. So again, I'm still learning. I'm still constantly evolving. Which again, I think if you look at the game now versus 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, the game evolves. Certain fundamentals don't. Certain basics of the game stay the same. But there's certain bits that do move forward, and that's again the bit for me is I think I'm quite aware of my strengths and weaknesses, what I'm good at, what I'm not good at. And again, I think what I try hard to do then is surround myself with people that complement my weaknesses, but also then pick the brains of experienced people that have more knowledge or more expertise around me. And again, I think being humble is a really important value for me in terms of it allows me to learn, it allows me to get better. So yeah, I don't have any end target goals. It's just to stay true to me a little bit, which is quite difficult in an industry like this. And keep progressing, keep getting better.
So of the top coaches, who do you admire? Who do you think is the ones who you'd like to be? Who do you think, I look at them, that's what I want to be?
Do you know, I think when you first start coaching, when I first started coaching, I was only 20, so I've been doing it quite a while now. And when I first started coaching, I did a scholarship at Ipswich. I just copied. I don't know if you were the same, to be fair. I just copied sessions that I'd done when I played. And again, I think it takes you quite a while to get to a place where you're quite comfortable with the way you want to coach and the way you want to be as a coach, but also then the way you want to play the game. So again, I think it's very much, I think someone said to me once, coaches are the best thieves, just nick bits off other people. So again, I don't look at anybody and go, I want to be him or I want to be like him. I want to be true to me. So that's why a big part for me is my values. My values are really important, which I won't trade off for anything, to be fair. So how I treat people is really, really important. So again, living that is, you don't always see that in terms of how other coaches operate. So for me, I want to do it my way, while still looking at and respecting and admiring and learning off other people. You look at De Zerbi now at Brighton's a terrific person to kind of steal little bits off, but I think it's being really clear. I think the second you start copying other people, you actually, you don't know potentially what you're doing. So I think it's for me understanding what I want the team to look like, how I want to develop players, what culture I want to create, and going from there really.
Hiya guys, this is a question for all four of you, mainly you Jon. For a good few years now, we've been sort of a mid-table championship club. Do you sort of have a plan for the next 5 years or so? Are we just going to coast season to season? I don't mean that in a horrible way, just...
No, that's fair enough. Look, I mean, we've had a couple of... Look, I think if you look back a little bit, we had a right go at it in terms of investing in the squad. It didn't work out, and we've been working through some of those contracts to get back to where we are now. I mean, if you look at where we are, we have, in terms of what we're recruiting, we know what we're looking for, and we know what sort of the minimum, sort of, if you're talking like physical, athletic players that we're looking for, it does help narrow down and focus what you're doing. So we're at a stage with the squad now where I think we're pretty close to that, and then we're building off an already strong position. If you look at the league we're playing in, I think if you look at it now, I'm not sure I'm going to get this right, I think there's about 16 teams within 10 points of each other. So I mean, if you take the top and the bottom away, there's a load of teams that are all competing for 4 or 5 places if you want to get in the mix for going up. So what makes a difference there is it's your coach, it's a bit of luck, and it's health. So look, it is realistic from my point of view, and we're making steps and sort of structured, focused steps to move towards that. It's sport, so you're going to need fair wind helps, but we are doing things, and Brian's spoken about the academy as well. That forms part of it because it allows you to recruit from there, and then gives you more resources to recruit fewer positions. So look, that's the track we're on. That's what we're trying to achieve, and to be honest, we've got a decent platform from it. If you're talking from now.
One for John. Your dad's talked about investment and looking potentially to sell the club, but certainly looking for investment. I just wonder if there's any news more on that front. Have we got anybody that's showing an interest or any discussions?
Yeah, I mean, there's no news, but I think it kind of goes back to the point I made earlier. The football club exists for its community, and we care deeply about it. We're strongly connected to it. So it's not a right. The club's up for sale, let's move on. It's a right, can we get someone to invest in it to help us take it to another level, to give us more expertise, whatever else that might be, give it more drive. That's what we're talking about. But it's not a quick thing. So you don't put that in motion when you want to necessarily have that end point. We're still very much invested, very passionate about it, very focused. It's not that point. It's more, you can't pick and choose your perfect investor, right? So it might not happen for 5, 6, 7, 8 years. So you've got to start at a point where you're thinking about, right, at some point this club needs succession beyond us, or whatever that is. And for us, it's got to be right, because it's not a plaything. It's that, I don't know if that answers your question fully. Yeah. Look, if I could make a perfect investor, it'd be someone who brings an expertise that's more than we already have in a particular area and helps us drive forward, and you're still involved in it, so you can help safeguard it. In that sense, that would be the perfect scenario for me, but you can't pluck that out of thin air. So
Richard, Liam, just wish you all the best at Ashton Gate, and all the best to all of you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Good evening, gentlemen. One thing came through to me, which was just a little bit of rearranging the ground. Perhaps we could put the away fans in the top tier of the Lansdown, put the family in the section 82, and move the section 82 back into the behind the goal. But that's a simplistic, and it's difficult. The hard question I've got is, in terms of player injuries, you've got a quite expensive investment in players. What analysis have you done in terms of the type of injury they've had, their recovery, and where their treatment takes place?
I'm not an expert. I'm not a physio. So it's down to them. They're the department that look after it, and they've got to take responsibility for that. We are rejigging it a bit to make it into 2 departments. So one is going to look after the injuries and make them better as quick as they can, and the other one is going to keep them physically and hopefully in a shape where they don't get injured to start with. We've had too many injuries. It's frustrating because we set out a squad in the summer of 2 in each position, and it looked really strong on paper. We're getting excited, then we haven't seen Ross and we haven't seen Rob quite yet, and Naki's picked up an injury. So I think when that squad gets together and is everybody's fit, it's going to be a really competitive squad. But we've got to try and prevent the injuries, and we are looking at Liam's. We spoke about it already, and he's had conversations with the medical and staff, and we've got to try and make it better, and we've got to find a way, because there's nothing worse when you're building a bit of momentum and you get a couple of injuries and you're missing this and you're missing that. So it's something we're working on, definitely, because we need our players fit, we want them fit, because they're real assets to us. I don't know if anybody...
No, I mean, part of that, I think, is making sure that we share the data and view it in the same way that you do recruitment, in that sense, in terms of, analysing everything that we record in terms of, are there patterns? Is there anything else we can do? What's best practice? So that's another thing we're looking to do as well.
Question back. Question back.
Yeah, you can go ahead.
All right, Liam, this is for you. We all know what we think about the club in here. Obviously, that's quite clear because we were on a Monday night doing this. We're the stakeholders of the club. It's our club. The guys sitting around you, and your honesty is appreciated here because this isn't your interview. You've got the job now, right? Yeah. From an outside looking in over the last XYZ in football, what is football's perception of Bristol City as a club, and why did you want the job?
Because you smashed me 5-1, whatever it was. First and foremost. No, I think, again, I spent many years at Ipswich. You obviously spent a large period of time in the Championship as well, so I know the division reasonably well. And for me, it was always a team that's played exciting, like a brand of football, and there's an expectation on a brand of football that really aligns with what I want to see. I want to be excited by what I see on a Saturday as well. Maybe not as excited as Saturday, maybe a bit more control, but I think that's the biggest bit externally. And then I think in terms of a club with huge potential, I think if you look at the infrastructure, if you look at the staffing levels, the facilities, everything's in place to go. And that's the bit that excites me. That the biggest bit is now the team and getting the team right. With like I said, a terrific city and a terrific fan base ready, everything's set to go. So again, that's the bit that excites me. And again, I think probably the biggest attraction was the way that we're going to try and do it. I think that in terms of speak with Brian daily about it, but when you look at the core group of players, and 90 is a great example. You've got people that are in them early stages but have got quite a few games in their legs. So again, I'd hope to think, and spent a lot of my coaching career in development and trying to produce Premier League players. I think that's the bit where we've got a group that have got a decent blend of some senior guys that will accelerate the development in the young ones, but you've also got some really exciting talents that if we get the right work into them, and I spend a huge amount of time on my laptop doing video work, on the pitch, off the pitch, coffees, whatever it might be, is finding that way to really stretch and push that individual. So that's the bit I think is where we want to get to and how we want to get there. I think is probably the most important bit.
Liam, it's me, Andrew. Liam, are we close on the injuries what we got? Is anything due to come back anytime soon?
Yeah, there's a few that have progressed really well, to be fair. I don't know what I'm going to say. Ross was actually out on the grass today for the first time in a long time, which was really positive. But again, that's really, really early stages, so please don't get carried away and excited. I think it's just good for people to know that, and it's good for him. He got a nice reception off the lads when he came out this morning, despite it chucking it down. Naki's progressing well. So yeah, there's a few that are getting closer, which excites me, to be fair. I think there's some, delighted with the group we've got, and really looking forward to working with the ones that are on their way back.
Thank you.
Is the loan market an option for you, or are you going to still look towards the academy first?
Yeah, I think it's quite clear for me. I think we've had some good chats about it, to be fair. I think first and foremost, we've got it. The club needs a depth chart, so you need to know from first team down to under 15s what have you got in the building. So that way, what you don't want to do is go and recruit somebody and block a pathway for a young player that might be there in 2 years. So actually, a loan might be a more viable option. So I think first and foremost, you should always look in the academy. I think you know the lads' strengths, weaknesses, their personality. I think one of the biggest things for me is that they have an affiliation to the area and the club, given they've spent time here. So again, I think you get that extra emotional investment, which I think is really important. So definitely look there first, and then if not, then ideally it's then going right what's best for the club. And if that means a loan, so be it. The challenge you always get to a loans, and I was actually talking with Michael Carrick at the weekend of the challenge they faced in the summer is they sold 5 and had 5 loans go back. So you're then trying to transition a group of 10, which, given the league's so competitive, you're starting all over again every summer, which becomes really challenging. So again, I think it's been really calculated with. I wouldn't ever rule it out, but I think it's been really calculated with the reason you're taking someone on loan. Yeah, hopefully that answers it.
Liam, my question for you is, obviously I've noticed under our last manager, Nigel Pearson, that he always used to keep to the same sort of team lineup and obviously same sort of formations. Are you the type of manager that likes to experiment with the squad and play players in different positions and to see if they can play better in different positions, and do you like using different formations, or are you the type of man to stick to, once you find a certain set of team, you stick to that?
Good question. We spend a large amount of time. We're really clear on what we want to be, but we spend a huge amount of time looking at the opposition and patterns, trends. How they try and break us down or how they try and defend. And again, I think that's the bit for me, is then having the correct balance and profiles in the squad to be able to make small tweaks and changes in order to then go and get success in that game, because it does look different. So, for example, if their fullback's weak physically and someone you can hurt 1v1, then let's put a winger out there. Whereas actually, if he's excellent physically 1v1, let's put someone that can maybe come inside the pitch. So again, I think that we spend a huge amount of time studying the opposition, but then also trying to create a plan where we get success. I think there's certain bits that won't change too often. I think that you need rhythm, you need a core group of players that are quite consistent. But then I do think you can make the odd tweak change around it. Like we did from QPR to the weekend, we made obviously 2 changes, and again, I think what we do behind the scenes is coach everybody to know what their roles are. So if we do make a change, yes, they're already ahead of the game and they know what's expected of them.
Thank you.
My question's for Brian. You said that you've got a 16-year-old that the Premier League is looking at. Can we hide him so they can't find him, please?
Yeah. He's going to train with Liam in the next couple of weeks, so he'll be fine. He knows this is the place for him. He knows he'll get an opportunity. He knows there's a pathway here, so he doesn't want to go anywhere, which is good news for us.
Thank you.
Hi, can I ask a question of Mr. Lansdown? So, we had Richard Gold as CEO, who's quite well known locally in the West Country, and we saw a lot of work there. I think many of us were glad to see his predecessor leave, and then we've had a guy who came in very temporarily, seemed to come and go very quickly. Can you give us a bit of understanding and knowledge around that kind of situation, and how you see the CEO role developing going forwards?
In terms of why it's changed recently?
Yeah, we had the guy come in and out. I didn't really get to know him at all. We knew Richard Gould because of his background with Gloucester, etc. But
and I thought Richard had a really good connection with the fans, and the communication was better at that point as well. So I get that. Look, with Phil, it wasn't really working out in terms of, and I think the other thing that happened in that time is Brian developed into the role. And if you're asking about going forward, Tom's chief operating officer, what you get with a chief executive is someone who wants and often has the commercial experience, which with our setup is not actually as necessary. So, in terms of our structure, you've got Brian who's looking at all things football. You've got Tom who's helping the administration side and helping run the building and the people and everything else. And that kind of gives us the structure that we need. It gives us a better focus. So that's how it's going to look going forward.
Hi, I'm Rich. Back to the loan market. Gardner Hickman, which is obviously a success story. When's he being signed? When's he being unveiled?
The good thing is the loan agreement and the permanent agreement is all in place, so we're in total control of that. West Brom can't pull out of it, and we can do it whenever and if we feel it's fit to do so. We're really closed on that, and there's no issues whatsoever if we want to sign him.
That's good news, yeah. Great. Yeah, good.
My question is for Liam. Because of the injuries, like Benarous and Atkinson, especially for Benarous, because it felt like he was just about coming back to play with football. how hard is it for you to like deal with the injury, especially from at a young age?
Yeah, to be fair, Eamon was injured before I came in, so I haven't actually had the opportunity to see him on the grass. He's someone I watched quite a bit of video of and was quite excited to work with him, to be fair. I quite liked a lot of the attributes he's got. So again, I actually sat with him back end of last week, Thursday or Friday, and had a chat with him. And I think the important bit, let's talk about the person first. I actually sat with him, and I think with all the injured guys, they come in all our meetings, we invite them upstairs to sit down and talk about the game, because I think there's sometimes when you're out for a period of time, you sometimes forget you're a footballer and you think you're a gym specialist or a personal trainer. So we try to treat them like footballers and make sure they're still around it. And even more so when they're closer to returning on the pitch, we then tend to increase, whether they come out and watch some of the sessions so they, I think, can get up to speed and can feel like it again. And I think that's important. It's challenging. It's not easy. But again, I think I try to be glass half full. I think you might not be available for selection, but at least you're developing some resilience, you're developing some coping strategies, you're developing ways of dealing with setbacks, which again I think in future life, but also future circumstances in the game will definitely be valuable skill sets that will help.
I don't know who this is kind of aimed at, but this is more of a stadium point of view, is that I kind of wanted to thank the Lansdown family for creating sort of a stadium where you can have a day out at. Where you've now created, I think, from my personal point of view, is that the stadium's not where the football's played. Well, obviously it's where the football's played, but you can also go there hours beforehand and spend the day there. So following on from that is when... Following on from that is obviously you've got more development with the stadium, and obviously the basketball and things like this. Do you have a year in mind, or when you think things might kick off and actually sort of bricks being laid and things actually getting started on it becoming that full works of a complex of sport, basically, of Bristol sport in a sense? But also, to finish off, thank you for the Lansdown family, because I think I can't thank you enough for what you've done for this club.
Yeah, thank you. And with the project adjacent to the stadium, we're just at a stage now where we're waiting for the full go-ahead. Basically, it's in a period of review, and there's a few issues working through at the moment, as always seems to be the case here. But everything is ready to go otherwise, and look, it'll make it a very exciting and add to everything you've spoken about, and only enhance it for football and everything else. So it would be great for the city if we can finally get ahead and go on with it.
Hi there. Your predecessor was a strong vocal supporter and ally for all the various teams under the club badge, such as the women's team and the academy team, and even expressed support online for the Bristol Pride Parade, which was attended by various members of the Robbins Foundation, the Supporters Club and Trust, and the Bristol City Panthers LGBTQ+ football team. I was going to ask Liam, how do you feel about the one club mentality here at Bristol City, and have you ever experienced anything like this before at your previous clubs?
Yeah, and I've been City Group, so I was at City Football Group for 2.5 years, which just football, but again I think I was fortunate enough to do a course with the Premier League many years ago called ECAS, which Brian might, I'm sure, was aware of, where actually the course is a little less football related. You basically go into different industries and fields and basically see what transfers back to football. So again, it's something I'm really interested in. I'm actually going to go to talk to the Bears on Saturday, I think, the day before our game. So I think in terms of trying to get across, different parts of the group and different, get a feel for it will be for me really important.
I was asking more about City as opposed to Bristol Sport. But.
Oh, sorry, the City. Yeah, no, definitely. I'll be moving my family here, so for me, I want to fully integrate into the city and get to know the city. And again, I think that for me is really important. That while I'm here, that I'm all in. So as soon as I can, I'll be moving up, and definitely, I think integrating myself into the community and around the areas, surrounding areas, is really important.
Okay, thank you.
Hello. Yes, I'm just. My question is more about the coaching setup. Obviously, I think your assistant manager's come with you from Oxford, Liam. Sorry, I'm over here.
I can't see you.
Also, I think an analyst has come with you. I don't think there's been much said about what the role of the analyst is, so I'm quite keen to learn about that. Also, there's quite a lot of existing staff that have remained, like Khalifa Cisse, Pat Mountain. Are there further coaching changes and more people that's going to come and support you with your work? Or is that still ongoing? Maybe some if you can clarify that a little bit more.
Yeah, no problem. So I think, firstly, I'm fortunate. Chris Hogg, my assistant, I drag him everywhere with me at the minute. I'm fortunate on that front, to be fair. And it's massive in terms of hitting the ground running. He knows me inside out. He filters a lot of the stuff that gets back to me. Takes a lot off in terms of off my plate and allows me to concentrate on certain bits. So he's terrific. James Krause, he's spent the last 8 years at Arsenal. The last 3 years as head of analysis for the first team. So he's a coach analyst. So what that means basically is he helps create game plans, watches the opposition, but then will come out on the grass as well to basically be that link between the two. So he's again really fortunate that he's come with me. Again, given his experience and his the level he's worked at. And then I have to say, been really impressed by the staff in house already. So at the minute there's no major plans to make any changes. I'm really pleased. I have to say, Pat and Cliff have been terrific in terms of upskilling us and fast tracking our knowledge of the club, the setup, the players, everything. So I think using that expertise that's already in the building for me is also a really important part of how we work.
This one's mainly for John. Obviously, when Nigel Pearson was sacked, I think maybe not an overall sense, but there was definitely a good portion of the fan base who were quite upset, maybe with the communication. Would you say that there were maybe some mistakes in how that was communicated to fans, and have there been lessons that have been learned, and we'll sort of make sure that there aren't sort of similar outrages in the future?
It's football, so there's always going to be outrages, but I think, look, I understand what you're saying. I think when you're handling something like that and there's a lot of emotional reaction, you're never going to give the communication that anybody wants in that sense, and people are emotional about the game, so they're going to want to vent, and you're going to get that reaction whatever you do. I think it's fair enough. From my point of view, that's more of a what's your lead up to that, what's your communication, people know what the club's about, what you're trying to do, how you're trying to do it, so that when you have that in a vacuum, it's not, I don't understand. Like, you're still going to have a bit where you say, I don't understand, but for me, the handling of the event itself, I think, is, you're never going to be able to, when something big comes along, there's only so much you can say at certain times, there's only so much you can do. And if someone's got an emotional reaction to it anyway, straight away you're not going to change that. So the way you're going to change that is to say, right, hopefully you understand what we're all about, what we're trying to achieve, how we're going to achieve it, and we can bring you to understand some of that with the context. But the event itself, yes, there's always elements you look back on and go, we could have done that slightly better, but I think you're not going to change that overreaction. So I totally understand the point about communication, but I think when you get a big emotional reaction event, it's quite hard to get everybody. Well, you can't tell people what they don't want to hear in that sense and get a different reaction. But I totally understand what you're saying about how do you take people through that journey. I hope that answers it.
Hello, question for Liam. We had a young, relatively inexperienced manager, Willie Johnson, and we pretty much mid-table. We had an experienced manager with Nigel, and we were pretty much mid-table.
I see where this is going, huh?
Why do you think, or what are you going to do different to make us something other than mid-table? We had a really experienced bloke who couldn't get us above that.
I can't talk a previous, right? I have no idea how they worked, what they did, or anything from that perspective. So, again, for me, it's concentrating on the now and the future. So, again, I think biggest part's what we've got in the building in terms of already from the playing squad and what that looks like for the rest of this season, but beyond that, and then it's obsessing on the game. I'm totally obsessed by it. I give every single minute to it, to be totally honest. So I overanalyse, I over-reflect. Definitely partly for my family, but I'll line a little bit if I'm selfish. It's for me as well. Hence being away all the time. So I think that I back the work we do. I think in terms of, what helps is having a real clarity and identity in terms of where we want to get, but how we want to get there. I think that's the biggest bit that excites me at the minute. And then, like I said, I think I back some of the work we do. I think we've got a talented group of players that want to listen, want to learn, and are craving that information. and then we'll obsess on giving it to them. And then, I can't make any guarantees, but what I will promise is I'll do everything I can to get above mid-table.
Hi Liam, just picking up on the over-obsession actually. It's good in some ways, obviously, to see that you are so engrossed with the job at hand and doing everything you can. Conversely though, is there something that you put in place to help balance that for you as a person?
Yeah, I'm very fortunate. My wife worked in football many years, so she gets the industry. Hence, I've dragged her around the world in the middle of the pandemic twice, so I'm very lucky on that front. Yeah, I'm actually really quite a simple person, to be fair. I've got a couple of dogs which I love as well, so for me, out dog walks are really important just for headspace. But it's that having a good support network, and yeah, I'll have a week off when the summer comes, but that'll be about it, really.
Thank you.
This is one partly for Brian and partly from John. Probably Liam might want to have a word on it. It comes down to communication in a way. I've been to a few of the under-18s, under-21s matches when they've been at the Gate and when they've been at the HPC. The problem comes with that is a lot of older people, because they're home all the time, could get to see them. There's a lot of other people that work shift work or whatever that would love to come and see those matches, get to know the youngsters that are coming through that eventually will hopefully end up with Liam in the first team. Communication on those matches is non-existent. By the time it comes out on social media to say the under-21s are playing at the HPC at 1 o'clock today, it's too late for anyone to get there. And it'd be really helpful perhaps for some of them to feel the support of a crowd behind them, cheering them on, but also for the supporters and the fans that want to get to know the youngsters that are coming through. And then you see the names like when Yeboah first appeared on the team sheet, Jamie Knight-LaBelle. To a lot of people that were sat around us in the Dome and would say, who are these? We don't know who these people are. Who are they? So if it was communicated a bit better and a little bit further in advance so that people knew where they were playing and that, even if we had to apply to get a ticket to go so that you knew the numbers, people would go along and support them, which would be good for them, good for the club.
Very good. I don't know the answer. Sorry. I think the fixtures are on the website there, am I right?
I take the point, and we do need to get information about the fixtures earlier, so it's a very valid point.
Okay, so I'm interested to know if any of you are brave enough to give us a prediction for where we're going to finish at the end of the season.
Mid-table.
Go on, John. I'll leave it to you.
I mean, the whole beauty of the league is it's unpredictable, right? That is the beauty of the league. I think, go back to what I said earlier, look, there is a huge amount of teams in the Championship competing for, to get in the playoffs. I mean, I don't think, you could say Leicester look like they're a strong team at the moment. You can see other squads that are good squads, but I wouldn't like to tell you who's going to finish second. I mean, you've watched football long enough, I'm not going to tell you who's going to win the league either, but I think anything after that is there'll be lots of teams who would be doing something like this, would be saying, why can't we get there? Because there isn't a lot between them, and I think the results this weekend, you could have a look, certainly prediction-wise, whatever else, it's probably the most unpredictable, not just a Championship, Football League-wise, in terms of a lot of winning runs ended, a lot of people who were fancied for games. When we look at our game, we were underdogs for our game. I was really surprised when I saw what the odds were for our game, but we're above Middlesbrough now and we were at home. So there's loads of other things you can take into that, and there's lots of the stats and expected goals and everything else, but if you look at it, there's not a huge difference between those teams, and for me that's what the excitement is. If you get it right and you keep your players fit and you can add to January, why not? So I mean, But there's lots of other there's lots of other teams trying to do the same thing. So like it's not like it's not competitive. But I think that's the point. Is why not?
Take a few more questions now.
Yeah, John, it's a question. You know when Nigel Pearson got sacked, how many managers was there interested in Bristol City Football Club?
There's lots of managers interested. It is a very attractive job. I mean, we talked about a number of reasons why, and there's a lot of stability at the club that isn't at other clubs as well. I think it's a great platform for someone to come in. I mean, but that question's entirely different to what was our focus in terms of what you're looking for. We were the same with the player recruitment. We're very very focused in terms of this is the type of person we're looking for and what we're trying to achieve. So yeah, that's
Peter.
Yeah, question to you, Dave. How many tickets have we sold for Southampton? Off the top of your head.
Off the top of my head, it's 2825 minus 32.
Okay.
Can't be more exact than that, though.
So, Liam,
yes,
you got a big night Wednesday. 2,000. What was it? 800.
Take away 32.
What would you like us to do?
Have a great time.
Yeah. Make a lot of noise. That would be a good start, right? I think that. Enjoy it. Get behind the lads. Make as much noise as you can. I think a big thing will be. Look, I think it's one we can spin with the lads a little bit. The pressure's on them, right? The expectations on them. So again, I think we can use that to our advantage. And again, I think the more noise, like I said, them big momentum shifts that you can create in games. When. The roar of, when you have a counter-attack or a foul or a set piece, they go a long way with the players. The players are aware of it. So again, I think that the more noise we can make, the more energy we can create, the more frustration we can create for them, the better.
Final question.
Yeah, John, the question I get asked most since you mentioned about looking for additional investment in my job is how linked is the stadium to Bristol City? Because several supporters have mentioned the Coventry situation. So obviously if we, as a group, had investment into Bristol City, and then obviously that person would then have a say in the club, what would happen if, as a club, the club was sold? Would we end up like Coventry with the people who own the stadium falling out with the people that own the football club? And obviously as a fan I've been asked it quite a bit as well, so it'd be quite interesting to know how the two are linked.
Yeah, I mean it's intrinsically linked. I'll let Gav give you the technical information.
But yeah, so the football club's got a 125-year lease at Ashton Gate. That was signed 9 years ago. So if that, and I'm not saying that would happen, but if that happened in terms of there was different ownership, the football club's protected. Obviously, that's the key. That was a key thing put in place, by the Lansdown family to ensure that the football club, and to be honest, it's the same in place for the rugby club as well. So that both the football club and the rugby club have got security of tenure that they're going to be playing at Ashton Gate for the next 116 years. That's the rest of the lease. So yeah,
it's part of Bristol City Holdings as well, isn't it?
Yeah. So yeah, there's no danger of that happening here.
Thank you, and on that positive note, I think we're just about wrapped for the evening. Thank you very much to the Hen and Chicken for hosting us again. Thank you all for coming tonight, and thank you for our top table.
Back towards goal, hits the post, but tapped in, and there's Sam Bell.
Neesman slides and Cornick, that'll do it. And he make an impact right away. He'll try.